That's Good, That's Bad is the 32nd episode of the ABC television series Desperate Housewives. The episode was the 9th episode for the show's second season. The episode was written by Kevin Murphy and was directed by Larry Shaw. It originally aired on Sunday, November 27, 2005. Due to time constraints, the opening credits were cut. Plot: Brie Vanderkamp has always been the envy of most suburban housewives, much due to the fact of her elegant dinner parties. At these treasured events, Brie will always treat her guests as though they were part of her family, between the size of food portions, alcohol consumption and the excellent conversations, as she hosts yet another not very different party for an upcoming charity ball. The dinner is interrupted by George singing into a karaoke machine outside. When Brie comes out to tell him to stop, he refuses, which causes Brie to sink to drastic measures. She tells her guests, who look concerned, to return to their seats as Brie takes care of what is going on outside. George continues to sing and Brie pulls out her shotgun and shoots at the speaker. George is immediately stopped by Brie's action and the guests listen in horror as the gunshot is heard. The following day, Brie is stalked by George, who wants to rekindle their engagement. Brie asks him to leave and drives off in her car. While visiting Drive Goldfine in the hospital, Brie discovers that George may be his attacker. Brie takes no time in calling the police, who begin to search George's home for evidence. When George comes home from the grocery shopping, he is shocked to find a police squad who are searching George's home. George drops his groceries in horror and calls Brie. Brie refuses to answer, causing George to leave a very worrisome message. Brie finally picks up the phone to tell George that she knows that he attacked Drive Goldfine. George hangs up and runs away, hoping the police will not catch him. Later, George checks into a hotel where Brie is co-chairing a charity event. George sends a message down with the bellhop informing Brie that he is attempting suicide by drug overdose, and if she really loves him, she will come up and save him. Brie calls Detective Barton, who tells her that there is evidence that George poisoned and killed Rex. On the way up to George's room, Brie breaks down in the elevator and pulls the emergency stop button. When she finally calms down, Brie walks to George's room where she demands answers. She tells George she knows what he did to Dr. Goldfine, but poisoning Rex was a true blow. George denies both accusations but says that whatever he does for her. George warns Brie that he is in peril and needs help. Brie assures him that she has called an ambulance, when in reality she has not, and quietly waits until George dies. Carlos is a new man after having been paroled. When Gabrielle discovers his letters to a nun, Sister Mary Bernard, who helped push up his parole case. At first Gabrielle thinks it is a nice idea that he has become more faithful, but when she gets a look of Carlos's nun friend, she immediately balks, claiming she is young and hot. Carlos assures Gabrielle that their relationship is platonic and that Sister Mary is helping him become a more spiritual person. Gabrielle wants to make sure that Carlos is doing just that when she invites Sister Mary over the following day for lunch. Their Sister Mary explains her ministry and how Carlos is becoming more moral and spiritual through their ministry. When Carlos tells Sister that he would like to donate his car to her charity, Gabrielle becomes offended since she will have to share her Aston Martin. Carlos also tells Gabrielle that her shopping privileges will be cut down as well. While Carlos goes to look for the deed to his car, Gabrielle excuses herself from the dining room. Gabrielle manages to stall Carlos by seducing him. The two make love with Sister downstairs. Gabrielle returns downstairs to tell Sister Mary that they had an enjoyable lunch. but Carlos will not be giving up his car and that she should back off. Sister Mary tells Gabrielle that she has no intentions of leaving since Carlos is still prone to violence and crime. Sister Mary advises Gabrielle and Carlos to get an annulment. Gabrielle asks Sister Mary, "What kind of nun are you?" and gives Sister Mary a threat that she will bring her down if she comes between Gabrielle and Carlos. Sister Mary tells her that if she wants to give a threat she will have to do better than that. After an unsuccessful pitch to Nina and Ed, Lynette is forced to go back to the drawing board with her idea. When she forgets something from her office, she quickly returns to find Stu, the receptionist, and Nina kissing and having sex. As Nina looks up she sees Lynette spying on her, telling her to watch out. The following morning, while getting the coffee, Lynette advises Nina that sleeping with the help can get her fired. Nina offers Lynette a variety of options in order for her not to tell Ed. Lynette refuses each of them and asks that she only be nicer when it comes to her work attitude. When Nina fires Stu, Lynette automatically assumes it was because of their consensual affair. Lynette then decides to invite Stu over to her home for tea. Lynette talks about their affair and how Nina can get fired if Ed found out what happened. Stu would also be entitled to money if he takes the case to court. Stu decides that he will definitely talk to Ed the following day. The following day, Lynette walks into work to find Ed firing several of her co-workers, including Nina. Ed tells her that Stu was going to file a sexual harassment lawsuit against the firm if the firm did not settle. As a result of this, a majority of the workers must be fired in order for the accounts to remain stable. Ed likes Lynette and decides to elevate her to vice president of accounts. Nina congratulates Lynette but tells her to say goodbye to her kids, since she will probably never see them anymore. Susan meets her father, Addison Prudy, who owns a hardware store. Susan decides at first not to tell Addison who she really is since she did not want to shock him. Instead, she decides to fill out an application for a job, but when he sees that she is overqualified, he thinks his wife put her up to this. Susan quickly tells him that she is his daughter and explains to him the situation. Addison leaves for his storeroom and collapses. Susan quickly calls 911. At the hospital, Addison explains to Susan that he had given Sophie money years prior and told her to keep their affair private. Addison tells Susan she is going to have to leave since his wife and children are coming and that Susan is not considered part of his family. Susan understands this and does not expect a lot. She just wants a father figure. The two are interrupted by Addison's wife, Carol, who introduces herself and asks who Susan is. Susan explains to Carol that she is Addison's guardian angel since she was a customer in the store when he collapsed. She gave him CPR and called an ambulance. Carol thanks her for her noble deed. Susan then kisses her father on the cheek and whispers in his ear that she is not giving up. Cast. Although credited: Betty Applewhite, Alfre Woodard, Paul Young, Mark Moses, Tom Scavo, Doug Savant, Zach Young, Cody Cash, Carl Mayer, Richard Berge, Mike Delfino, James Denton, Andrew Van de Kamp, Sean Pyfrom, Danielle Van de Kamp, Joy Lauren, Matthew Applewhite, Mekad Brooks, Caleb Applewhite, Nashon Curse, Preston Scavo, Brent Kinsman, Porter Scavo, Shane Kinsman, and Parker Scavo. Zane Hewitt do not appear in this episode. Series continuity. Final episode featuring Roger Bart as George. Although Bart would return as George, albeit in a flashback in the Season 2 finale. Remember, what happens to the Applewhites in the next episode? Coming home was originally supposed to happen in this episode. but they reshot the scenes featuring Page Kennedy with Nash Onka, so they delayed it for the next episode. Title reference. The episode title That's Good, That's Bad is a song in the Mary Rodgers musical, Hotspot. Stephen Sondheim is given co-writing credit for this song's music and lyrics. International titles. French. Le Non, Le Brunet l'ex Truand, The Nun, The Brunette and the Ex-Gangster. German. Die Guten und die Bossen, The Good Guys and the Bad Guys. Italian. Il Bene e il Male, The Good and the Bad. Hungarian. A Joe, a Rossi, a Cute a Tobik, The Goods, the Bads and the Others. Polish. To Dobra, to Zle, That's Good, That's Bad.